Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Translation Studies and Training, SOTST, Master's Degree Programs. Master of Arts, Translation Studies, MATS English. First year. MTT-013 Areas of Translation. Block-1 Translation of Administrative and Parliamentary Literature. Unit-1 Language of Administration and Translation. 1.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you will be able to state the meaning and scope of administration and the specialty of its language. Historical context of Hindi in administration and various constitutional legal provisions related to official language. Difference of administrative Hindi from general and literary Hindi. Need and arrangements of translating administrative work in translation training, and basic requirements of administrative translation. 1.1 Introduction. Among the various fields of translation, the field of administration is the most important and extensive field. There is a huge demand for translators in this field. Keeping this in mind, in this unit we will first discuss the meaning, scope and linguistic features of administration. Also, the historical context of Hindi as an administrative language and the constitutional statutory status of Hindi as an official language have been discussed in the unit. We will also consider in detail different aspects such as what constitutional statutory provisions have been made in this regard. What is the need for Hindi translation in administration, at what levels? Does Hindi differ from common Hindi and literary Hindi? What is the form of translation of administration today? In this context, it is also worth keeping in mind that what is the arrangement for the training of translators in administrative works. We will also clarify that what facts should be kept in mind while doing translation for administrative translation. At the end of this unit, we will explain other different aspects of administrative translation like language usage, syntax, use of technical vocabulary, use of correct synonyms, how administrative translator differs from other translator, etc. 1.2 Administration and its language, meaning and scope. Apart from being a powerful medium of expression, language is also an object of social behavior. Therefore, through the language, the caste diversity of its speaking groups, their synthetic culture etc. is expressed. India is a multilingual and multicultural nation. Many languages, sub-languages and dialects are practiced here from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Despite all the differences in the culture of different language societies, we see only unity, and this unity is emotional unity. In order to establish emotional unity in the country, it is necessary for us to accept any one of the different languages. Just as every country has its own flag as its symbol, which is designated as national flag, in the same way every country has a language which has a universal character as a medium of expression, and that language is called official language, Rajbhasha, or language of administration. Regarding official language, Acharya Devendranath Sharma says that the language which is used in administration, legislative, executive and judiciary areas is called official language. Dr. K.C. Bhatia has called Rajbhasha as the language of administrative works. In this way, the language used in government offices, i.e., administration, can be called administrative language or office language. This means that the form of language which is spoken, written and understood by the majority of people throughout the country should be the language of administration or the official language. Hindi language has all the qualities required to become an administrative language, so Hindi is our administrative language or official language. Administrative Hindi is called official Hindi or official Hindi in special context. Based on the structural features of the language, these three words are used for the same type of Hindi. Before understanding the administrative language, it is necessary to understand the meaning of administration and its scope. Administration and its scope. The smooth management of the governance or practice of the state is administration. According to Brecht, the main concern of administration is with the functioning of administration. Rules, procedures, functioning, memorandum etc. come under administration, i.e., division of work, authority and responsibility, discipline, unity of command, unity of management, centralization of personal interest, contact among officials, order, justice. Administration is related to stability, motivation and cooperation etc. in the employees. Therefore, administration refers to discipline, regulation, planning, implementation and evaluation of works related to public welfare. The scope of administration has become so wide in the modern context that it is difficult to tie it within a limited scope. But since we are considering the administration here as related to the procedures of the center and the state, therefore, in the area of administration, apart from ministries, departments, subordinate offices, attached offices, government banks, limited companies, cooperative banks, autonomous bodies working under government control, public sector undertakings etc. are covered under it. The official languages rules, 1976, made by the Government of India for the official purposes of the Union, mainly include the following institutions under the central government: a. Any office, department or ministry of the central government. b. Any office of the Commission, committees and authority appointed by the central government. c. The office of the central government includes the office of any corporation or company owned or controlled by the central government. Similarly, the definition of the office of the state governments includes the offices of the state governments having the above nature. Now, it is also necessary to know where are the areas of use of Hindi in the administration. After giving place to Hindi as the official language in the Constitution, the question arises that in which areas of administration this language is being used. Generally in all the provinces of a region, most of the work is done in Hindi language. Companies established in these areas have to communicate with the local or central administration mostly in Hindi. Correspondence with court, SL, municipality, electricity board, collectorate, law and order related offices is also done in Hindi. Administration plays an important role in dealing with various areas of its organization, not only from outside companies and state government offices located in that area. Action taken by the administration regarding the purchase of stationery and various items required for the organization is done in Hindi, and nameplates, rubber seals etc. are made in Hindi. Actions related to estate like land acquisition, orders for allotment of residential quarters are also issued in Hindi. In the central dispatch section, which is the main part of the administration, the addresses etc. on letters sent to other places are written in Hindi. In addition to this, other areas of administration related to the employees of the organization establishment, welfare, industrial relations, security etc., administrative Hindi is also used in these areas. 1.3 Characteristics of administrative language. The language used in administration or governance is called administrative language. The form of administrative language is different from that of common language. Its entire form is based on the specific functioning of the government, and it is also governed by the underlying principles behind the functioning. In fact, the government is an abstract entity. Its rights are not exercised by any particular officer but by a group of officers. These government officials are divided among different officials of the government machinery at different levels. This is the reason why there is absence of real subject in the structure of administrative Hindi, especially official Hindi. Even if the real subject is used in the functioning of the government, it is either indirectly or symbolically. Any decision of a government official is not his personal decision. It is a decision of an abstract or invisible government which has given one of its many rights or a part of it to an officer on its behalf, and that officer exercises it on behalf of the abstract government. Administrative language is related to government employees, officers as well as common people, i.e., the language behavior of both the people who are making arrangements for the administration and for whom they are doing it is related to it. Therefore, depending on the nature of the language of official work, there are few characteristics of official or administrative language. which are being introduced further. 1.3.1 Comprehensibility and Unanimity. Comprehension and unanimity are the first conditions of administrative language. In order to maintain the comprehensibility and unanimity, the denotative language is used in the official literature. With the use of denotative use, the administrative language takes a completely unanimity form. This brings clarity to the text. It is necessary to state the subject matter in clear words. For example, a person receives a letter from the Delhi Jal Board that he has not paid the water bill for the last 4 years, so now he is warned to pay the dues as soon as possible, otherwise his water connection will be disconnected. This thing should be said in a direct and simple manner so that the person can understand it as soon as possible, because it may happen that the person to whom the letter has gone is not much educated. Therefore, he will not be able to understand that letter by using excessive symbolic vocabulary. The language used in administration to be self-explanatory and comprehensible, it is expected that its syntax should be monotonous and not ambiguous. In this, minimum ambiguity and maximum formal language is expected. 1.3.2 Impersonality. In the government system, the distribution of rights takes place in a definite order. Therefore, every officer either obeys the orders of his higher authority or gives orders to the lower authority or informs about the decisions of the government. In other words, the government official has no personal connection with the government order. That officer says in impersonal form without saying anything in personal form, like, the letter is being sent. The person in the office is a part of the administration, so all the letters of the office are written on behalf of the administration. Therefore, there is predominance of passive voice in administrative language because in this the statement is not person-relative but person-neutral. For example, look at the following expressions in English. I am directed to inform you. I am directed to request you. I am directed to ask you. Draft as amended is put up. Draft reply is put up for approval. Under his signature and seal. Waiting list may be renewed. Submitted for perusal. 1.3.3 Use of imperative or suggestive sentences. There are many categories of employees in the administrative system. Some are officers and some are subordinate employees. Then there is another employee below the subordinate employee. Orders are exchanged between them. Due to the tradition of following orders and implementation of orders in the administrative system, imperative or suggestive sentences are used more. But it is to be noted that even while giving orders on a matter to his subordinate, he do not use subject. For example, get the approval of the ministry. Issue this letter soon. Reply to this letter should be withheld for now. Dispatch today. 1.3.4 Nature of formal language. The entire environment of the administration system is based on the chain, so special care is taken of etiquette in the language of administration. In the language of administration, etiquette is due to formality. Generally, when we talk among ourselves, we become informal. There as well, but mostly formal language is used in the administrative office. This formality and etiquette is visible everywhere in administrative correspondence. For example, many types of formal expressions are used at the beginning and end of a letter. For example, sir. Dear sir, yours faithfully, with warm regards, thanking you and regards etc. 1.3.5 Tradition of precise and systematic writing. Administrative literature has a stereotype structure. There is a precise, definite and systematic writing tradition of official language. While preparing this type of literature, the same binding convention is followed. It means, a certain writing style is used, followed. For example, see the following official notes. inquiry may be completed and its report submitted at an early date. The proposal is self-explanatory. It may be accepted. We are not concerned with this. Delay in returning the file is regretted. 1.3.6 Specific terminology. The words related to different subjects come to the fore while discussing that particular subject. In the same way, when we talk about administrative language, such vocabulary comes in front of us, which is directly related to the administration, government work, or the prevailing working procedure in offices and offices. It is directly related to the functioning of the administration. The language of administration is somewhat different from the language of general conversation. Sometimes there is talk of rules, sometimes of forms, proformas, codes, laws or acts, etc., and sometimes constitutional forms also come to the fore. There is a language of notes written on files, a language of drafts, a language of memos, circulars, notifications and releases. Some special words become stereotypes for all of them, which are continuously used in the same area. Somewhere fundamental rules, somewhere financial powers, somewhere disciplinary action, somewhere office procedure, and somewhere orders and instructions. For this form of language, we need specific vocabulary only in the direction of correct and accurate expression of various concepts. This specific terminology is called administrative terminology because it is used in various administrative proceedings, like commission, officer, employee, gratuity, ad hoc, post, pension, suspension, form, sanction, government, cooperative, etc. Words from different sources are found in the vocabulary of administrative Hindi. The reason for this is that in ancient India the language of administrative work was Sanskrit. After that, languages like Pali, Prakrit, Apabranch, Persian, Urdu, English were associated with this functioning. After independence, when Hindi became the official language, the emphasis was on following the Sanskrit tradition because Sanskrit words are found in all Indian languages. Apart from this, in order to enrich the word repository, it was necessary to take shelter of the medium of Sanskrit prefixes, root words and suffixes in the formation for words. The basis of the meaning of the accepted created administrative terminology in Hindi is the meaning of the administrative terminology of English, but many types of administrative terminology of Hindi are found from the point of view of structure, such as 1. In the formation of words, mainly Sanskrit has been accepted as the basis. Due to the synthetic nature of Sanskrit, words are formed by adding prefixes or suffixes to the root word or root. 2. The use of Persian-Arabic Persian words is also found in abundance in the administrative language. They have been taken as it is. 3. English words are also prevalent in the administrative language, and these words are maintaining their important place in this area. When such words are used, they are written in Devanagari script. This is done because their Hindi counterparts are less common and other English words have become more common in administrative work, like grade, file, lien, duty, guarantee, warranty, bonus, check, pension, share, agent, alarm, etc. 4. Some such words are also used in administrative language, which generally seem to have the same meaning, but when they are used keeping in mind the formal way of writing, they are used in different forms. For example, the Hindi equivalents of order, instruction, ordinance, command can be taken. Similarly, the words remarks, comment, opinion, intention, opinion and idea can also be seen, while in general speaking we can use for all these more or less with the word advice. 5. In the administrative language, the use of indigenous words i.e., Hindi's own common colloquial words. 6. Synonyms of languages like English, Sanskrit, and Persian Arabic etc. are also used in administrative language. The employee of the office can use any one of these options as per his wish. This exemption is practical for the promotion of terminology. In this, there is an increase in the vocabulary of Hindi. 7. Vocabulary of the administrative language is sometimes not made from homogeneous components but also from heterosource components. These are also called compound words. In this, the word of one language is made up of the word of another language. Like Anuvad Bureau for Translation Bureau. 1.3.7 Administrative expressions. There is a definite method of functioning of administration. According to that method, the action to be taken on a matter can be done only by deliberation, decision and writing of various level officers and employees of the particular office. No action is oral. Everything is done in writing on paper. Whenever several files of related correspondence are made in any case, then only the process of writing on it starts from the clerk to the higher authority. In this process, language behavior has also become stereotyped for different situations or contexts. There are definite sentences and phrases to express administrative action to be taken in a variety of situations or contexts. These stereotypes and phrases are called administrative expressions. Earlier we have talked that the administrative structure of India has been adopted more or less like the rule of the British. Therefore, the work which was done through the medium of English is being done through the medium of Hindi. For this reason, for the informality and unanimity of the language of administration, it was considered necessary that Hindi form of multi-used expressions should also be ensured in the administrative office. Otherwise problems may arise in proper action. For example, some administrative expressions are given below. By return of post. Delay regretted. For approval. For favor of necessary action. For favor of doing the needful. For information. For sympathetic consideration. I have the honor to say. In anticipation. No demand certificate. Please treat this as strictly confidential. Referred to above. Respectfully I beg to say. This is to certify. Through proper channel. Under intimation to this office. Vide letter no. With regards. With compliments from. You may take necessary action. The above administrative expressions are context-bound linguistic structures. Some of these expressions are phrases and some are syntactic. With the development of many such administrative expressions in administrative practice, they are becoming stereotyped. Although, due to such expressions, mechanization has been incorporated in the administrative proceedings, but it has also become easier for the supportive staff and officers to take action. Because they do not have to add anything from their side. According to the context or situation in the file, fixed or conventional expressions have to be written, due to which their work is done easily. In this way, accuracy and brevity are maintained in office proceedings by the use of administrative expressions. 1.3.8 Use of abbreviations. The purpose of any language is the full expression of human feelings and thoughts. But for this there is no need to deviate from the text by adding unnecessary words. The language which has the ability to express maximum meaning with less words is called advanced, developed, modified and idiomatic. Sounds, words, sentences are used as the means of conveying meaning. In order to improve and refine the language, the body of words should be narrowed and shortened as much as possible according to the appropriate expression of meaning. The language is beautified with adjectives like beautiful, simple, vigorous and well-formed etc. from the brief body of words. Today's man tries to express maximum thoughts and feelings in less time. Helps in this work. Single or multiple word short forms of conceptual subject which are called abbreviations. In this way, abbreviation means expression of full meaning with short words or short letter arrangement. The same abbreviations are best which are concise, clear, simple and unambiguous so that people can understand them easily. The meaning of the idea, feeling or concept contained in the full word is realized only in that brief or partial form of the particular word. Abbreviations are widely used in administrative language. Most of the designations, departmental names and technical terms are abbreviated by this method. For example, see the following abbreviations and their full forms in parentheses. BDO, Block Development Officer, VC, Vice Chancellor, LPC, Last Pay Certificate, DDA, Delhi Development Authority, MCD, Municipal Corporation of Delhi, ICC, International Cricket Council. This method of making abbreviations is quite simple, but it cannot be called fault-free because many abbreviations are determined the same in different contexts. For example, -CP can be Central Purchasing as well as Connaught Place. Similarly, SA can be anything from Central Railway, Character Roll and Confidential Report. There can be three forms of AD is Assistant Director, Authorized Dealer and Acknowledgement Due. The full form of abbreviation FR anything can happen from Fundamental Rule and Fresh Receipt or else. Similarly, NA abbreviation can be seen, whose full form can also be not applicable and not available also. Abbreviations of many words are being used in administrative Hindi also due to the saving and convenience of time and space. In the words of Dr. BN today it is necessary that for the modernization of the official language Hindi, such abbreviations should be made. For all the abbreviations prevalent in the official language English, which can be used conveniently in writing and speaking, systematic work is yet to be done in this direction. There is no uniformity in the abbreviations that have been developed. Rajbhasha Hindi. p.91. There are, therefore, two things to keep in mind while making abbreviations. 1. Uniformity should be brought in the abbreviations that are being used, and 2. Those who are not should be made. 1.4 Use of Hindi in administrative work, historical context. Due to being the most civilized ancient country of the world, governance has been going on in India since very ancient times. There has also been utility of one or the other administrative system to run that governance. In ancient times, literature related to administrative system was expressed by the names of political science, Arthashastra, Dandniti, penal code, Smriti etc. The scope of the ancient official language was so wide that the expressions of the words used in administration were not limited to the official records, but their use was also available in poetry and history. Therefore, many examples of kings, their types, their appointment, ministers and officials, their code of conduct, administration, functioning system etc. are found in religious texts like Vedas, Upanishads, Brahmins, Mahabharata and Ramayana. Then the language of governance and administration was Sanskrit. We get evidence of this fact from ancient government articles, letters, laws, rules and records related to the government. In course of time, Sanskrit remained confined to specific class and literary texts and started going away from the public, as a result of which languages like Prakrit, Pali, Apabhramsh etc. started being used in governance. Around the 12th–13th century, Hindi assimilated all the dialects and languages prevalent from East Punjab to Bengal and started being used as the language of official work. This became possible because Hindi has a deep connection with all the languages of northeast and central India. For example, the language of the Rajput rulers was actually Rajasthani Hindi, in which official letters, notes, code of conduct for civil servants, orders of the king etc. were presented. After the arrival of Muslims in India, in those parts of the country where they established rule, Arabic Persian definitely found a place in administration along with Indian languages. But in North India, Ghulam dynasty, Khalji dynasty, Lodi dynasty, Zuri and Mughal dynasty. In the rule of various kings, there are evidences and proofs of the use of Hindi. Hindi continued to be used along with Persian during the rule of Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. Words used in government work during the Mughal period, such as Sarkar, Zuldar, Vakil, Chaprasi, Sipahi, Amin, Daftar, Khajuanki, Mal, Makan etc. are used indiscriminately even today. The same is also seen in the reign of Marathas, where the language of treaties, political business agreements, ordinances, certificates etc. prepared after the war was also Hindi. During their reign, the British gave patronage to the then prevalent official language i.e. Persian. In 1835, Lord Macaulay established English as the language of education and administration of India. Gradually, it not only became the language of Indian administration as a whole, but also established itself as the language of education, commerce, trade and industry. Nevertheless, the British rulers continued to feel that the languages of India could not be suppressed for a long time, so they made Hindi the medium of instruction in Hindi-speaking states and the languages there in primary and secondary classes in other states. The British themselves kept fighting against the British regarding Hindi. Notable among these is the name of Frederick Pinkett. His fight with the British government started from 1868, when he was only 32 years old at that time. In a letter written to Hindi literary personality Sridhar Pathak in 1888, he clearly wrote that, 20 years ago I was the only European who put pressure on the government about Hindi, and 10 years later succeeded in making it a rule that it should be made compulsory for Englishmen going to India to pass the examination in Hindi. In fact, people's movements take place in the language of the people. Therefore, during the national movement, when the voice of giving importance to the language of the people was raised, the struggle of Hindi was added to the national struggle. It is worth noting that till the 19th century, the focus of the struggle for Hindi was more around the fight for its rights as a court language, but in the beginning of the 20th century, the struggle between English and Hindi became an integral part of the national struggle. Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Gokhale, Lala Lajpat Rai, P.T. Madan Mohan Malaviya, Mahatma Gandhi, Rajarshi Purushottam Das Tandon, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, P.T. Nehru, Vinoba Bhave, Chakravarti C. Rajagopalachari, Jayaprakash Narayan, Ramanohar Lohia etc. Almost all the leaders, literateurs and awakening workers of that time underlined the role of Hindi in the national movement in their own way. It was the result of the efforts of these leaders, awakening workers and literateurs, that after independence the talk of making Hindi the official language arose. After independence, the attention of scholars was attracted to the fact that Hindi should be developed as the language of administration in favor of India's self-respect and dignity. Because linguistic self-respect is an integral part of an independent nation. Behind beautifying Hindi as the official language or the language of administration, it was believed that Hindi should not remain only the language of knowledge, science, study, literature etc., should not become the language of public relations, but should be used by the government as an administrative language. It should become the language of official work, speech and behavior. For this, statutory arrangements were made, human and material resources were mobilized and efforts were made to create such an environment in government offices and areas that Hindi gradually becomes the language of daily work. Because of this, on 14th September 1949, Hindi got the status of official language. 1.5 India's official language, constitutional and statutory provisions. In India, by 1947, during the British rule, the official language of the country was English. At that time Hindi and other languages of the country were less used in official work. India became independent in 1947, and on January 26, 1950, the Constitution of the Republic India came into force. It was mentioned in the constitution that Hindi, which is written in Devanagari script, is the official language of this country. Official language refers to the language of the three major organs of the state. These are Parliament, courts, and administration or government. These three organs are related to the whole country. The Parliament makes laws for the entire country and the state legislatures work at their respective levels in their own languages. To coordinate all these or to establish harmony in it, it is necessary that the decisions etc. of all the legislative bodies are available in the official language of the country. In order to coordinate the judiciary, it is also necessary that the highest court of the state and the Supreme Court of the country do all their work in the official language of the country. Similarly, the offices of the Government of India, Postal Department, Railways, Income Tax Department etc., work all over the country. Here also it is necessary that their work should be done in the official language of the country so that the contact is not broken. From this point of view, the responsibility of establishing coordination or establishing contact among the three organs of the nation rests on the official language of the country. 1.5.1 Constitutional Provisions. According to Article 343(1) of the Constitution of India, the official language of the Union is Hindi written in Devanagari script. Similarly, according to Article 343(2) of the Constitution, provision was made that at the beginning of the Constitution, till 26 January 1965, up to 15 years, English would continue to be used for all official purposes, so that Hindi would be used for governance, legislation, executive and judiciary during this period be able to perform tasks. In Article 343(3) of the Constitution, Parliament was also given the right that even after the expiry of the period of 15 years, if it wants, it can make any provision by law to keep the use of English as it is. Due to this type of provision, Hindi had to face restrictive constitutional provisions even after considering and providing the status of official language of independent India. Article 344 of the Constitution, the Honourable President has been ordered to appoint the Official Language Commission after the first 5 years and 10 years of the Constitution. Article 345 of the Constitution provides that the state legislature may by law adopt one or more regional languages or Hindi for official purposes. It is clearly ordered in Article 346 that the official language of the Union will be used in the correspondence between one state and another state and between a state and the Union. According to Article 347, if a substantial proportion of the population of a state wants to recognize the language spoken and understood by the state, then the President is empowered to give official recognition to that language. Article 348 of the Constitution also provides for the language of the Supreme Court and High Courts etc. Article 349 of the Constitution provides that for a period of 15 years from the commencement of the Constitution, the text of any other language in place of English shall not be considered as the authorized text. As per Article 350 of the Constitution, a person can make a request for redressal of his/her grievance in any of the languages used in the Union or the concerned state. Through this system, the rights of linguistic minorities have also been fully protected. The last article of the Constitution, i.e., Article 351, is very important. According to this article, it is the duty of the Union government to develop Hindi as a common national language which can be used with pride in the whole nation and it can express the composite, mixed, culture of India. For this, it is suggested to enrich Hindi by adopting words from other Indian languages. 1.5.2 Statutory provisions. When India became independent in 1947, the British left the country but the British rule continued in the administrative corridors. After independence, on the enforcement of the Constitution of India, Hindi was accepted as the official language of the Union of India. According to Article 343 of the Constitution, the official language of the Union of India is Hindi written in Devanagari. From the year 1952 to 1961, presidential orders came out regarding the use of Hindi in official work. As per Article 344, the President of India also constituted an official language commission in the year 1956, which is responsible for the progress of official language to make recommendations regarding its use. The Parliamentary Committee of 30 members considered the recommendations of the Commission and presented its opinion to the President. Based on this, the development and progress of Hindi in the year 1960 detailed instructions for use of Hindi were issued. After that, the action regarding the use of official language increased intensively. The Official Language Act was enacted in the year 1963 and it was amended in the year 1967. According to the Official Language Act, bilingual status was adopted for federal works, and by accepting Hindi as the official language, its use was made necessary, especially in compliance with Section 3.3, for certain works. But at the same time, English was allowed to continue to be used in official business for all those purposes, which were running before the Constitution came into force. Thus began a long-term system of bilingualism in the central government. In December 1967, a resolution regarding language policy was passed in both the houses of the Parliament. According to Para 1 of this resolution, the Department of Official Language, Ministry of Home Affairs, prepares an annual program every year in which targets are set for working in Hindi for central government offices etc. in a year. The country is classified as A, B and C regions under the Official Languages Rules, 1976, with a view to complying with the official language policy. Bihar, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand states and Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Delhi Union Territory come under Region A. Gujarat, Maharashtra and Punjab State and Union Territory Chandigarh come under Region B. All other states of the country come in C region. The responsibility of the implementation of the official language policy rests with the administrative heads working in the Government of India, and its undertakings and cooperation of every officer and employee is expected in this. The government, on its part, has made ample provisions for the promotion of Hindi and its maximum use. In fact, instructions have been given in many articles of the Constitution for the development of Hindi, the official language of the Union. From Article 343 to Article 351 can be seen specially in this context. Along with this, the Official Language Act 1963 and the Official Language Rules 1976 also have their own importance. Here it is also necessary to pay attention to the articles, rules and acts of the Constitution. 1.6 Difference between administrative Hindi, common Hindi and literary Hindi. Administrative Hindi is different from common Hindi in terms of its form and scope of use. When we say that common Hindi is different from literary Hindi, then what do we mean by common Hindi? When we express our point through such words and sentences in which the prevailing literal meaning is expressed, then it is called common Hindi. If in order to understand the intended meaning of a language form, we have to take the specific meaning of its words or phrases or resort to its figurative meanings, then it is different from normal Hindi. From this point of view, both literary Hindi and administrative Hindi are different from common Hindi to some extent. But it should not be thought that in common Hindi there is no figurative use at all, or there are no words or phrases giving specific meaning in it. Sometimes we also make figurative use of words in our language to convey our point to others effectively. But it only suits the occasion, not always. The use of connotative and sarcasm, figurative use etc. is basically in literary Hindi, whereas the use of words and phrases in specific or definitional sense are the properties of administrative Hindi. As we go into the depth of a field of knowledge, our ideas become simple to complex, many more sub-concepts are born under the same concept. As a result, the meaning of our words becomes specific, new words are emerged and the style keeps changing. As a result, the language of administrative Hindi keeps getting separated from both common and literary forms of language. The following are important differences between these two language forms. Denotative word power is always used in administrative Hindi. In this, the use of the words connotative and sarcasm, word power, is strictly prohibited. In administrative language, if connotative or sarcasm is used in place of denotative meaningful word, then the clarity of meaning will end and ambiguity will be included in it. Because of obstructing the main meaning, connotative and sarcasm are not used in administrative Hindi, while words of connotative and sarcasm power is often used in literary or poetic language. Basically, the more the literary language is away from the ideal, the more it is considered successful. Details of essential facts are given in administrative Hindi. In this description, all the material related to the subject under consideration is given systematically and sequentially. In this, the basic text is introduced giving a brief description of each case. There is less scope for evaluation and more for description of facts. While the language of literature is generally emotional, emotional language form is rhetorical, because it is intended to express the feelings, thoughts or feelings of the writer. Examples of both the forms are given below. Her life story and her tears were full of cold jealousy in each of her words. Emotional language. It is absolutely necessary to give cycles to the peons of the postal section on behalf of the office, because they have to go to many places for the delivery of mail. The amount of money the office spends on this item every month, the cost of buying a cycle will be much less than that. Descriptive language. Administrative Hindi is objective while literary or common Hindi is subjective. In literary Hindi, the author has his/her own point of view or idea. This point of view or idea can be of each writer's own, so there can be substantial variation in their language style. On the contrary, personal approach is negligible in administrative Hindi. Therefore, subjective expressions like, I believe, I try are not used in administrative Hindi, unless the author has to conclude. Examples of subjective and objective use are given below. Subjective use of language. So I can't see his agony in thrashing hands and feet. When his hand was cut, I thought why not take him to the hospital, I also have some fundamental duty towards him. Objective use of language. The speaker would also like to see for information. The draft is submitted for approval. Leave is approved. Apart from these types, many differences are found in administrative language and literary language. In literary Hindi or common Hindi, the author can use figures of speech on his/her behalf, can present the text in a twisted manner, but since administrative Hindi is information-oriented, there is no freedom to add or leave something in it and use of figures of speech. In literary Hindi or common Hindi, the writer can use rural, zonal, refined and expressive language according to his context, whereas in administrative Hindi, simple and informative language is used. In literary Hindi, technical words are not compulsorily used, while in administrative Hindi only technical words are used as per the requirement. Administrative Hindi is mostly dry in nature whereas in literary or common Hindi the dullness and dryness are intolerable. Thus it can be said that both these types of language as administrative Hindi and literary Hindi are polar opposite to each other. 1.7 Need of translation in administrative functioning. Before knowing the usefulness of translation in administrative work, we have to know why translation is useful today. In the beginning the translator was looked down upon very much in the literary world and the job was accepted as a low-level job. Regarding translation work, it was said that it is a small source of employment for an educated unemployed person. Initially, the translation never got either public support or commercial encouragement. But as the horizon of knowledge started expanding, the worldview started to be formed, the relation of living and being alive started connecting with the whole world instead of one province, one nation. In the same way then many parts of the world, classes and businesses within the people, the desire to know each other's culture and social tendency started getting stronger. From technology, medicine, law, commerce to administrative and literary exchange, there has been a huge change in values of human lives. A strange relationship began to emerge between pain, discomfort, tears and joy among human beings living in different parts of the world. On the other hand, various mediums of electronic and print media and modern communication have made the imagination of the world man a reality, where the person used to understand Only his situation like a frog of the well, now he started searching for an international solution to the problem of the nation. Translation today has made a concerted effort to communicate, both in business and professional relationships and beyond that in purely human relationships, among different nations of the world. Similarly, today translation has also become a medium of dialogue dispute situations between different countries of the world. In today's marketism, translation is working as a bridge on which the original language transmits its literary and administrative achievements to the target language. It has been mentioned in section 1.4 of this unit that India was a slave for many years, first to the Mughals etc., then to the British. At the time of the Mughals, the administrative language here was Persian, and at the time of the British it was English. But the language of the Indian public has never been English. For this reason, even before independence, there was a need for translation in administrative work. The British, following a diplomatic move, paid attention to the ancient language of India, i.e., Sanskrit, but at the same time maintained indifference to Hindi, the language of the Indian public. In this way, they were completely successful in establishing the supremacy of English in India in a planned manner. But as has been mentioned that the language of the Indian public was Hindi and the high officials used to talk in English, there was a need for translation in establishing communication between the high officials and the public. Even today most of the administrative work is done in English only at higher levels and its Hindi translation is conveyed to the public. Article 343 of the Constitution of India, Hindi written in Devanagari is the official language of the Union of India. You have read in section 1.5 of this unit that the Official Languages Act of 1963 was amended in 1967. According to this Official Language Act, the situation of bilingualism has become in the working of offices. According to the Official Language Act, bilingual status has been adopted for federal works and Hindi has been accepted as the official language and its use for some works, especially section 3.3 of the OL Act in compliance, was made necessary. But at the same time, English was allowed to continue to be used in official business for all those purposes, which were running before the Constitution came into force. Thus began a long-term system of bilingualism in the central government. Since then until today, many orders and instructions have been issued according to which Hindi is being used more or less in almost all areas of administration. Important business of the government, such as resolutions, general orders, rules, notifications, administrative and other reports, press releases, all reports to Parliament and all papers, contracts, agreements, notices, licenses, permits, tenders, forms etc. are issued simultaneously in Hindi and English. Apart from this, departmental rules, manuals, contracts and other procedural materials are also being prepared in both the languages. Hindi is also being used in correspondence, notes on files etc. All these government documents are basically written in English. After writing in English it is translated into Hindi. A translator is required for this work, so the need for translation is seen at every step in the field of administration. Today translation is also helping in the promotion of Hindi. After implementing the Official Language Act, as amended, 1963, a resolution on language policy was approved by the Parliament for the promotion, development and implementation of Hindi. This resolution was published on the 18th of January 1968 by the Department of Official Languages. According to the resolution, the Government of India has to implement a program every year for the development, dissemination and progressive use of Hindi in official work. For this, various measures and facilities have been arranged by the government to increase the use, dissemination, development and use of Hindi as official language in official work, in which translation system has a very important place. This translational arrangement is mainly done by 3 agencies. The work of Hindi translation of legal literature is done by the Official Language Legislative Section under the Ministry of Law. The work of translation of non-statutory procedural literature, such as manuals, forms, codes etc. is done earlier by the Central Hindi Directorate, Ministry of Education, and now by the Central Translation Bureau, Department of Official Language, Ministry of Home Affairs. Apart from these, at the third level, each ministry/department/office makes its own arrangement for translation of its day-to-day and general type material etc. Various schemes and measures have been taken for the development, dissemination and use of Hindi as an official language. Despite this, the actual situation is that the development and use of Hindi as an official language has mostly happened as a language of translation. In this way, in the context of development, dissemination, progress and use of official language, the utility of translation is noteworthy from 2 points of view. 1. All types of literature and materials used in official work are made available in Hindi through translation. The use of this type of administrative literature and material is not only limited to government employees, but it is also used for the public. The most important criterion for the success of this literature is that it should be well understood by the public. 2. The usefulness of the translation is even more from the point of view that on the basis of it the government employees adopt the language style of Hindi developed for use in government work. 1.8 Arrangements of translation and translation training in administration. When we talk about the system of translation and translation training, first of all we need to divide the translation work. Only after this, the translation-related arrangement can be considered. In this context, the translation training system can also be considered. Let's break down the administrative translational work first. 1.8.1 Division of translational work. Administrative work is dealt with the help of different types of papers. Some of these are permanent in nature and some are temporary. From this point of view, the translational work of the Government of India can be divided into 2 parts. 1. Material of permanent importance, such as manuals, registers, forms, codes related to procedure etc., and 2. Material of language-related importance, such as resolutions, general orders, notifications, press releases, administrative reports, agreements, tenders, contracts, licenses etc., which are covered under Section 3.3 of the Official Language Act. Material of permanent importance can also be divided into 2 parts. A. Statutory material, which includes acts, ordinances, bills, statutory manuals and forms prepared under them, etc. Arrangements have been made to translate it in the official language. Legislative Commission. Translation of other miscellaneous literature, such as licenses, permits, agreements etc. has been entrusted to the Ministry of Law. B. The work of translation of non-statutory permanent material is done by the Central Translation Bureau of Ministry of Home Affairs of Government of India, GOI. The responsibility of translation of daily routine work of immediate importance of various ministries, departments and their subordinate offices has been entrusted to the same ministries/departments and subordinate offices instead of being concentrated at one place, as it is possible for the same department/office to decide its relevance and authenticity. Thus, it can be said that the following arrangements have been made for translation of various types of official documents. 1. The translation of statutes, statutory rules, regulations and orders, including their respective forms, shall be done by the official language wing of the Legislative Department of the Ministry of Law, GOI. 2. Translation of non-statutory manuals, codes and other procedural literature and forms related to them will be done by the Central Translation Bureau under the Department of Official Language, Ministry of Home Affairs, GOI. 3. If some part of a manual is statutory and some part is non-statutory, then the official language wing of the Ministry of Law, after completing the translation of those statutory parts, will send it to the Central Translation Bureau of the Ministry of Home Affairs, where the non-statutory part will be translated. 4. All the three defense services, Air Force, Navy, Army, Ministry of Railways, Department of Posts themselves translate their manuals, codes and other procedural literature. 5. Each ministry/department shall make its own arrangements for translation of documents covered under Section 3.3 of the Official Languages Act, 1963. 6. In addition, Parliament itself will arrange for Parliament questions and answers and translation of papers to be laid before the House/Houses of Parliament. 7. Where there is no required staff for Hindi translation work, the translation work can be done by a qualified employee of that office or a qualified translator from outside on honorarium basis. Centralized translation facilities are also available for various ministries, departments etc. for translation of their non-statutory material to government undertakings, corporations etc. owned or controlled by the central government. But, they do not have access to the services of the official language section of the legislative department for translation of their statutory material. 1.8.2 Arrangement of translational work in the government. The official language is generally understood to mean the administrative language. It is the language of government work done in the Secretariat of the Centre or the States, but today the scope of the government has become so wide that most of the activities of human life come in it. The breadth and diversity of the work assigned to the various ministries and departments of the Government of India and the complexity of translating them into their annual reports is easily gauged from the list of works assigned to them. In this way, almost all subjects of knowledge/science come in the material and literature to be translated, including general administration, personnel policy and system, economic and industrial activities, scientific and craft artisan activities, mass communication, audio-visual publicity, law-making, etc. are noteworthy.
Due to such a large number of official functions, they also have different areas. Today there are many departments in each ministry. All ministries and courts and areas of government work are not located in one place. Some offices are even abroad. Therefore, it is neither desirable nor practical to integrate the translational work of all government departments or offices within one place or organization. In government offices, sometimes translation of documents or memorandum has to be done immediately, then some work is done according to its own time. The translation of some of the same requires a specific type of efficiency. Different types of documents differ in their nature and format. It is also necessary to ensure uniformity of terminology in translation of manuals and manuals. Keeping these facts in mind, the government has tried to keep the system of translation in such a way that most of the translation work is done in the concerned office only, and the specific translation is sent to the Central Translation Bureau and the specific translation related to law be sent to the official language wing of the Legislative Department of Ministry of Law for translation. A brief description of where the translation related to administrative work takes place is being given below. Hindi Cell, Official Language Cell. Various ministries etc. are established to carry out administrative tasks. All the ministries and offices now have arrangements for Hindi cells or official language cells units. The Assistant Director, Official Language, is in charge of this cell. At some places, this charge is given to the Hindi officer. In some big departments or ministries, there are posts like Deputy Director, Official Language, and Director, Official Language, for the in charge of the Official Language Cell. To assist these high-level officials, there are also senior translators, junior translators, assistant translators etc., who translate the work related to that office. 1 or more translators are kept in the office as per the requirement of the work. But it is mandatory to have at least one translator in the office who does the work of translation from English to Hindi. This happens because ordinary people also come to the concerned office who do not have knowledge of English. Apart from undertaking and supervising translational work, these cells also undertake the work of implementation of the official language policy. Therefore, The Hindi Cell Official Language Cell also sees whether the work of implementation of the official language policy in their office is being done in a proper manner or not. Similarly, government corporations, companies, undertakings, nationalized banks, insurance companies, self-help corporations, organizations etc., adequate arrangements have been made for translation work. In charge of Hindi-related posts in the official language cell of these offices are generally in the form of manager, official language, deputy manager, official language, assistant manager, official language. Like big ministries, departments, and in big corporations, companies, banks, etc., there are also higher posts like chief manager, official language, deputy general manager, official language, in charge of the official language cell. Nowadays, banks have started doing most of the work in Hindi for the convenience of their customers. Therefore, in every nationalized or private bank there is definitely a Hindi officer who does the work of translation smoothly. Central Translation Bureau. In 1960, after the establishment of the Central Hindi Directorate, working under the Ministry of Education, the responsibility of translation work was entrusted to them. Later, on 1 March 1971, the Central Translation Bureau, CTB, was established under the Department of Official Language, Ministry of Home Affairs, for translation of administrative literature, codes and other procedural literature. The work of translation of non-statutory procedural literature of central government ministries, departments, offices, and undertakings etc. was entrusted to this bureau. At present, the Central Translation Bureau is functioning as a subordinate office of the Department of Official Language, Ministry of Home Affairs. It translates non-statutory procedural literature, manuals, forms, codes etc., of various central government ministries, departments, offices and central government-owned and controlled undertakings, corporations, autonomous bodies, organizations and banks etc. Free of cost. Innumerable standard pages have been translated by the Central Translation Bureau since its inception. Despite this, there is still a lot of material that remains to be translated. In order to clear the backlog of translation work quickly, the Central Translation Bureau started the Translation Capacity Expansion Scheme in 1980. Under this scheme, translation work is done by translators other than the Bureau on honorarium basis. Official Language Wing, Legislative Department, Ministry of Law. As per the order issued by the President on 27 April, 1960, the statutory rules regulations and the translation of the orders was handed over to the Ministry of Law. A permanent commission, Official Language, Legislative Commission, of various linguistic experts in the Legislative Department of the Government of India for legal translation and legal terminology, created in the year 1961. The first chairperson of this commission was former Justice of Patna High Court Mr. C.P. Sinha. Under the auspices of this commission, the first edition of Law Glossary was published in 1970. So far, translations of hundreds of acts have been published under the auspices of the commission. The translation of Indian Penal Code 1860 was done by Kumar Lakshman Singh and Panel Hum, which was published in the name of Indian Penal Code. Under the Legislative Department, on the recommendation of the Hindi Advisory Committee, a Nirnaya Patrika Anubhag, Judgment Journal section, was established in 1968, which translates orders and judgments of the High Court and the Supreme Court from English to Hindi. Translation of almost all central acts has been published by this department, and translation of many standard texts of law is still in progress. National Translation Mission. Establishment of National Translation Mission is an initiative of the Government of India. The purpose of which is to make knowledge-based texts available through translation in the languages included in the 8th schedule of the Constitution of India, to provide translated material to enhance access to many important areas of knowledge, education and administration, and to broaden and strengthen continuous learning and people's participation in administration and education is an idea of National Translation Mission, NTM. The National Knowledge Commission under the chairpersonship of Mr. Sam Pitroda compiled the suggestions and stressed the need for a separate institution or mission to promote translation and upgrade education in India. The work of the National Translation Mission has been entrusted to the Institute of Indian Languages located in Mysore, which plays a major role in providing all the facilities and running it. Its project advisory committee consists of 25 people, including members of public sector undertakings, scholars and experts engaged in translation teaching and translation work, writers, literators, chairpersons of literary academies, vice-chancellors of universities, booksellers, publishing bodies and representatives of translation organizations and institutions etc. doing developmental work in the area of translation. National Translation Mission is to get various original texts translated into different Indian languages, create dictionaries, encyclopedias, prepare computer software helpful in translation work etc. Apart from this, creation of technical and scientific vocabulary, translation teaching, dissemination of information, visibility and viability, ensuring access to translation and its dissemination are also included in its main objectives. 1st August 2003 Arrangement of Translation Training. Statutory and non-statutory provisions related to official language. An order was issued by the President of India on 27 April 1960, under which proper arrangements were made for training in Hindi while in service for the central government employees. The result of this order was that Hindi was not only taught to the employees, but translation training was also arranged for them. Under this, in order to ensure simplicity, easiness in translation and uniformity in terminology formation, from the year 1971, the work of translation training was entrusted to the Central Translation Bureau, working under the Department of Official Language, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Central Translation Bureau is the only organization for translation training of central government employees, where translation training courses are run to make government employees aware of the process and theory of translation. In this, about 250 trainees are trained every year. Apart from Delhi, the offices of the Central Translation Bureau are also in Kolkata, Mumbai and Bangalore. Translation training by the Central Translation Bureau is mandatory for all employees dealing with translation work in central government ministries departments. The Bureau is running 1. Triennial Translation Training Program, 2. 21-day Translation Training Program, and 3. Advanced Refresher Translation Training Course, 5 days. Apart from this, translation training programs by CTB, by visiting various offices are also organized. These are A 5-day short translation training program, and B. a 5-day translation training course for scientists. Advanced Refresher Translation Training Courses, 5 days, are conducted at the Bureau's headquarters, New Delhi, in which trainees belonging to various offices are also drawn from outside Delhi. Hostel facility is also made available for them. If a translation training program is organized in a city office, there is also an arrangement to send officers from the CTB for training there. 1.9 Administrative Translation, Prerequisites. Today the language of administration is becoming the language of the people, or the language of the people is the language of administration. Looking back, India's administration has been running through non-Indian languages as well, But today's situation is different. Indian languages are gradually taking the place of English. Hindi is being established as the official language. Works are being done in Hindi in Parliament and government offices. The need for the use of Hindi along with English has led to an increasing need for English to Hindi administrative and legal translation in Parliament and government offices. The official language, legislative, section of the Legislative Department of the Ministry of Law, the Central Translation Bureau of the Official Language Department, Ministry of Home Affairs, etc., are doing useful and standard work in the field of administrative and legal translation. The language used for administrative translation of bilingual status in the works of Parliament and government departments, etc. The general assumption is that it should express the exact intention, it should be expressed in a direct manner and should be accessible to the general public. In such translation, long sentence scheme, unnecessary meaning, complexity, unnecessary use of idioms should be avoided. The language of administrative translation is connected with the government and the public, so it is necessary to have simplicity and comprehensibility. Similarly, in the context of material related to law, it is always important that there should be such use of vocabulary and syntax in it that only one meaning can be derived. Otherwise, due to divergence of meaning, there can be disaster. Along with this, the use of correct equivalent is also necessary for administrative language. On this basis, there are some basic requirements prerequisites for administrative translation, which are: 1st September 2001 Use of simple language. The language of translation of literary or humanities or literature of knowledge, etc., is according to the level of the subject. But in administrative translation, it is important to keep in mind that our aim is to explain the intention of the government or administration in the simplest terms, rather than showing off knowledge of the language or erudition. Therefore, it is expected that the words used in administrative Hindi should be simple, clear and understandable. If there is ambiguity, confusion and use of obsolete words in the language, then there is scope for ambiguous meaning. These dubious meanings prove to be fatal for the administration and obstruct the action. Therefore, as far as possible, simple language should be used in administrative Hindi. 1st September 2002 Maintenance of various stereotypes forms, letters, demi-official letters, memorandums, drafts, office memorandums, reminders, etc. sent by offices have their own stereotyped expressions and formats. While translating from English to Hindi, it is mandatory for the translator to follow these conventional expressions. Because if not doing so, the expression of the translation gets spoiled. 1st September 2003 Using appropriate synonym. In the administrative field, there are some words whose meaning seems common and same. In common parlance, we can use one word for such words. But keeping in mind the formality of the office, when those words are used for official purposes, then it becomes necessary that we use different words for them. Proper word selection and accurate equivalent selection have special importance in administrative translation. For example, order, direction, instruction, ordinance, and command can be taken. These 5 words sound the same in common language, but when they are translated administratively, these 5 words are used for special purposes. It is not possible that any word in Hindi is able to denote the all shades of the meanings of its English equivalent. So it is not necessary that prescribed alternatives are given. If it does not fit well in a particular context, then it should not be used. A word can have different synonyms in a special context. Therefore, accuracy of synonym is essential in administrative translation. 1st September 2004 Use of target language syntax. Administrative Hindi is used for official work. Government is not an individual in itself but a collective institution. Therefore, the work of the government is directly carried out collectively by its officers and employees, while indirectly the government itself works. For this reason, limited sentences come in administrative Hindi. Its basic relation is impersonal, and the passive voice is not used. Due to the different rules of both the languages, while translating the administrative literature of English into Hindi, English sentences should not be translated into Hindi as they are, but sentences should be kept according to the nature of Hindi. If required, more than one sentence in Hindi can be made of one sentence in English, and on the other hand, multiple sentences in English can be kept in one sentence in Hindi. While translating from English to Hindi in administrative literature, there is no problem even if the order of sentences has to be reversed. As already mentioned, administrative literature is for the general public, so it is necessary to have simplicity and ease in their language, not grammatical similarity. Fluency in language is essential while translating from English to Hindi. 1st September 2005 Use of technical terminology. The language of administration is somewhat different from the common language. Sometimes there is talk of rules and sometimes of forms, codes, laws or acts. Sometimes the constitutional form comes in front. There is a language of notes written on files, a language of drafts, a language of memos, circulars, notifications and press releases. Some special words become stereotyped for all of them, which are continuously used in the same field. For this special form of language, we need specific vocabulary in the direction of correct and accurate expression of various concepts. This vocabulary is called technical terminology. After the adoption of Hindi as the official language after independence, there was a need for Hindi words in place of the stereotyped and continuous use of English words to do official work in Hindi. To fulfill this, new administrative and technical terms were created. For this, new word formation, adoption, adaptation and translation were made medium. In this context, the ancient words coming in vogue under the formation of terminology were also used as synonyms of English words to give definite meaning or to express the concept. By prefixing suffixing, many words were created. Similarly, English words like bus, motor, machine, permit, license, form, school, started being used as they were. Even in these hybrid words were also created, which are being used equally in government work. Apart from this, many words were also created through translation, particularly word-for-word translation. 1.10 Summary. The language used in administration or governance is called administrative language. The administrative language itself is called official language. Based on the morphological features of the language, these administrative or official words are used for the same type of language. In the Constitution of India, Hindi written in Devanagari script has been given the noun of official language, but according to the provision made in the Official Language Act, as amended, 1963, the use of English was also allowed in administrative works, due to which the use of administrative Hindi is not happening as desired. The Hindi we use today is translated Hindi. Sometimes the translation is so complicated that it becomes beyond the understanding of the public. Therefore, the translated Hindi should be understandable to the public. For this, it is very important to pay attention to appropriate equivalent selection, correct syntax, and appropriate word selection. Since the language of administrative work is objective and contextual, the language of translation should have the ability to communicate decisions clearly. For this, the Government of India has entrusted the task of translation to Central Translation Bureau, National Translation Mission and Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, who are doing their work smoothly. Along with this, arrangements for translation training for central employees have also been made by the central government. Therefore, now the usefulness of translation in administrative works is becoming self-evident. Thank you, subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.